companies to become more empowered by engaging their talents to enhance their productivity and profitability through our people development and productivity improvement programs. So what is the 3E VIP? This is our virtual interactive platform. It was something that we actually started during the pandemic, where we wanted to give back to people and to help them be motivated and to still keep on being empowered during the pandemic. So it's an avenue where it provides an opportunity for everyone to interact, to learn, and to take away something that's beneficial. And it's absolutely free of charge with no catch at all. Yeah. So it's a session. We've now conducted about 55 sessions, and all our previous sessions are in our YouTube channel as well. Okay. So these were some of the programs that we have actually conducted in the past. And we've also had speakers from overseas. We've had some fun sessions, even a yoga session. And usually Christmas time, we'll also have a virtual Christmas party to get everyone to just let their hair down and enjoy a little bit. Okay. So if you'd like to actually keep in touch with us, you'd like to follow us and to find out about our many programs and articles that we publish, please do connect with us on our social media. We're in LinkedIn, on Instagram and Facebook, and of course on YouTube as well. And do join us on TikTok. We do have some little snippets on TikTok as well. Okay. So just a couple of housekeeping rules before we begin the session for today. Please kindly keep yourself muted so that we don't pick up any background noise. Thank you so much for being on time. We'd like to start the session on time and to also finish on time. Please do turn on your video because I'm sure the speaker would love to also see you and interact with you online. Now, I hope you've also come prepared with a little notebook because there's going to be some very useful tips that the speaker will be sharing with you today. And I hope you found a nice, quiet, comfortable place. But last and not least is have fun because this session is for you. Right. So today's topic is on mental health and the available help that is, that we have currently here in Malaysia. So as we know, mental health is an increasing problem. And we are very, very happy to have the session today to help those of you understand the problems that many people face today and the available help. And we are very honored to have a very established and distinguished speaker to be here with us today. She is an international speaker and entrepreneur, and she was recognized as one of the Women of the Future Global 50 Rising Stars in ESG 2022. So she's an international speaker. She has spoken at the Korea APEC Forum, as well as the China Asian Women Entrepreneurs Dialogue. She's the founder and CEO of Plus Vibes Group, and she has helped thousands of people throughout the country. And I shall not hold you any further. I would now like to invite Madiha Fuad to take over. Thank you, Madiha.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Sandra. I'm excited to be here and definitely looking forward to engaging with everyone in this session as well. Yes, I will start off with a presentation just to get things going, give you a general overview about mental health, some of the resources, how you can identify if you are stressed and what to do about it. But the second half of it, please do ask questions. That's the best part about this virtual interactive platform, right? It's about giving you the opportunity to ask questions, to even unmute yourself, and we can have that conversation going, and hopefully it will benefit everyone here as well. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see here. Okay. Let me know if this is all good. Yep. Okay, can you see the slides and can you see me? Yes, all right. So let's start with this brief introduction about mental health. Yes, there has been a lot of topic and a lot of awareness on mental health. A lot of it has been to do with, recognizing what are some of the signs, what are some of the triggers, how can you handle your stress better, and what to do if you see someone struggling with their mental health. So first and foremost, of course, to give a little bit of context, maybe some of us might not know how big of an issue mental health is. Here, you can see this was just last year, 8 million people are going through anxiety. And because of this, it does increase the suicide cases among the youth as well. You can see that it does affect the B40 and urban poor. And you can see that this data is actually, this one was in 2018. So mental health isn't really a new topic, but it's only become such a limelight after COVID when people are more open to express about their mental health, about their concerns, and more open to seek help. So another interesting fact, mental health is the number one health issue above cancer, above diabetes, above obesity, and even above cardiovascular disease. So this mental health spectrum can range between just your normal daily stress to anxiety to depression to mental illness. And we'll dwell a bit about the difference between mental health and mental illness in a bit. But as you can see, 1 in 4 are struggling with their mental health. And this might be because of workplace, it might be because family, relationship, financial. I'll share with you a little bit of data on Plus Vibes app later on. But yeah, this is how alarming mental health issues are. Now, this video is very interesting. So I paused it just a little bit because sometimes something about mental health is that you never really know who is struggling. And that person might seem okay, might be smiling, it might even be you. You're like, yeah, in front of everyone, you're completely okay. But when you go back home, or maybe when you're in your own zone, you suddenly break down, you cry, you start reflecting on certain events or situations or something that you feel uncomfortable about. And that's where you will see that this person in this video experiences something similar to that. So let's watch it.
It's good to see you. It's so great to be with everyone again.
Yeah, it is.
How have you been?
I'm not good. I haven't been good. The truth is, for a while now, I feel like I've been stuck in a dark place. I can't remember feeling happy. No one really hears me, you know? I'm good. Yeah, things are good.
That's good.
So what did you notice then? What happened was, what he really feels was that, what you saw just now. Perhaps when he's at home, when he's by himself, that's what he usually thinks about. That's the kind of emotions that he lets out. But in front of people, not really. In front of people, they're just like, yep, I'm good, I'm okay, everything's going well. And it will reach a point where they cannot take it anymore and they'll probably break down. And we don't want that breakdown to lead to critical cases. And that's why intervention, prevention, and getting the right support is so, so important. And you'll be surprised to see how small of an impact or how small of an effort that is needed to take care of someone who's going through a tough time. So, mental health. Why is it important? Maybe some of you want to type in the chat box, but I'll share with you a little bit of my personal journey. I never knew about mental health before. I would say I only really understood the importance of mental health in 2019. And you're thinking, that's before COVID, right? Yes. But it was because I got into an accident, and that accident left me semi-paralyzed for about a whole year. And during that phase was the first time I experienced panic attack, anxiety attack. I was hyperventilating and I was shocked. I didn't know what was happening, and I didn't know why I was reacting in such a way. I would say it was trauma. I would say it was the constant shock and anxiety, and also depression of not being able to move, right? So it was the sudden life-changing event. Now, that was what happened to me. And because of that, I had two choices. The first would be either to figure out a solution, try to find a way to come out of this dark cave. And the second is to have that victim mindset, right? To think, why is this happening to me? Why isn't it happening to anyone else? Why does it have to happen now? Why? Yes, I would say in the beginning, I did have that victim mindset. I was thinking, why is this happening to me? What did I do so wrong? Why am I so careless? But as time goes by, you sooner or later accept it and think, okay, how can I grow from this? Yes, you cannot change whatever has happened. Yes, it's happened. It might have even been fate, because if not, I wouldn't have developed Plus Vibes, because Plus Vibes became, and we even started to think about Plus Vibes because of that situation. We needed the on-demand support for mental health. We needed the, wide range of counselors and psychiatrists on the app. It had to be virtual. Everything had to be so affordable because I knew how expensive it was. And that was why I embarked on this journey. So you can see how one situation, and you might be reflecting on your own personal situation, it might be, why is this happening? Yes, you can question it, but then move towards, what can I do about it? How can I improve from this? What should I be learning from this? Who do I need to talk to in order to get the right support? Because in the end, it's all about that support system. Now, what would happen if you didn't take care of your mental health? Yes, it would go into that downward cycle where you would just keep falling into the negative thinking. You would go into the stage of self-harm. So there are 4 stages of depression. The first is negative thinking. So when you look in the mirror, you're thinking, why am I feeling like this? Why do I look like this? Oh, I'm not happy with this. I'm not happy with that. And it's constantly having that thought process, which is negative. The second part is distancing yourself from your loved ones, or not doing things that you used to love. For example, I used to love playing badminton, and then I used to love hanging out with my family. But then because I felt uncomfortable, because I felt so tired, demotivated, I distanced myself from doing the activities. So that's the second part. The third part, that's when you see self-harm initiatives. And that's where you see, why are you suddenly embarking on certain self-harm activities and situations and triggering moments, and listening to perhaps even sad music to trigger the thoughts even more. These are all leading to the acts of anxiety and depression. Stage 4 is where you see now, I think last year the data was close to 1,000 people committed suicide. I know during COVID, during the first 2 years of COVID, there was a total of 2,000 people who committed suicide. And sadly, I read an article on World Health Organization. There's actually 20 times more people who have initiated committing suicide. So that's how important mental health is. It starts from as simple and as innocent as negative thinking. But once it progresses, it keeps on progressing into something more serious. Now, you might feel it, or you might see your children, or you might see your friends. It starts with that negative thinking. So there are ways to tackle this. And that's what I'd like to share with you today. So it's as simple and as easy to remember as care, right? You think of care, you will think of these 4 words: communication, awareness, resources, and empathy. Now, I hope that you remember this as I go towards the end, because during our interactive session, I'm going to call out some of you and ask you, what does communication mean to you? Or what does awareness mean to you? Or what does resources, what certain resources have helped you? Maybe it can help someone else. And most importantly, what is the importance of empathy? So we'll start with communication first. So communication, two types here. You know, of course, there are generational differences, even in my era as a millennial and the Gen Zs and now the Gen Alphas, there are different understanding. So you can see here, let's call them seniors, our seniors. They'll say the children today aren't resilient. They make a big deal out of everything. I'm sure that sounds familiar. And you will see the younger ones saying, of course, my mom or my father or my grandparents or even my bosses or managers, they don't even know what I'm going through. Their time was much more simpler, right? So the first part is communication. When we don't share honestly how we feel, what we're thinking about, what we're struggling with, how can we expect the other person to understand? There is this concept called the stress bucket, where different people have different tolerance to stress because of how they are nurtured. So, for example, if you're nurtured with really strict parents who are always making you tippy toes and you always have to be so eager to do this and have to be active and have to be proactive, then your stress tolerance is a little bit higher than those who had more or less casual parents. They were very supportive, but then again, they weren't always pressuring you. So there is a difference in terms of that stress bucket, but it doesn't mean that you cannot increase your stress tolerance. You can become more resilient through exposure, through experience, by learning from other people. So that is that opportunity to become more mentally resilient. But it all boils down to communication. If no one knows what you're struggling with, no one can help you. Trust me, no one can read your mind. And sometimes they might see it as, oh, that's a simple task. I'm sure they know how to do it. But actually, you're really struggling because you don't know how to do it. Now, then we look at the difference between the Gen Zs and the Gen X, right? You look at the Gen X, you'll see the societal pressure. You see that there's stigma around mental health. You see that there's limited opportunities. There's an economic recession. And then we look at the Gen Zs, how hard and tough it is for them. The higher academic standards, because now knowledge and information is easily accessible, especially with ChatGPT and all this AI. The expectations are much more higher. And people will know if you use ChatGPT for your homework and all these kind of things. And there's also more demand in terms of job criteria. You're expected to do much more. There's social media pressure now. You can see now how social media is really influencing the self-esteem of Gen Zs. And of course, the economy. Whether now with the inflation, with the high living costs, there is pressure. Getting married, getting their first house, getting their first car. All of these things are underlying factors that cause stress for different generations. But with that, if you don't get the right support, if you don't talk about your problems, I share a lot about talking about your problems, because imagine this concept, a Coca-Cola bottle, and you shake it left and right through all the different experiences and stresses that you face throughout the day. What happens at some point? At some point, you will explode. And what happens if you open the lid just a little bit? Despite all the stresses, you open the lid just a little bit at some point in time to release that pressure. Whether it's talking to someone, whether it's doing mental health or self-care activities, whether it's going out for a walk, a swim, maybe playing sports, anything that you do to relax. Right? That is the core here. Stresses will always be there, undeniably, for every single generation. But it's how we communicate and how we share our problems that will make a difference. Now, for the parents out there, for the managers, the bosses, the superiors, of course, you're wondering, okay, so what can I do to help support this? Active listening, this is the toughest one because sometimes we expect our children to listen to us, but because we feel that during our time, this was what was right. But listening actually shows them that you care, actually shows that empathy, actually allows the child or the children to express themselves without feeling judged. So they feel heard. So it's about giving them that space where, okay, I'll give you 5 minutes, share what you're actually going through, and then you can interject. But if there's that conversation, and we always see this when we do this parent-teacher, parent-child workshops and summer schools. And what happens is we see the parent will immediately say, oh no, it's supposed to be like this, without giving the child the opportunity to build their self-esteem, right? And then it's about sharing experiences, from your own youth, the challenges that you also faced, so that there's that communication. Oh, okay, maybe that was a different generation, but it was still tough. Like if I was to look back at my grandfather's generation, finding job opportunities was still tough. They had to become entrepreneurs. They would sell kain, they would sell fabric, they would sell books, they would sell all sorts of things, food. You will see a lot of restaurants and food stalls back in that era. So different generations have their own struggles, but it's about really sharing what do we learn from it? And then using the positive reinforcements, encouraging them to build their self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is part and parcel of your self-esteem and your self-confidence. Your self-esteem is about what you feel. Your self-confidence is about what you feel you can actually do and execute. So that self-esteem and self-confidence is built upon trying, built upon having that support system where, yes, you know that it doesn't matter if you fail, you try, right? So you see all this communication around how a parent supports a child develops their mental health, their self-esteem, their ability to manage their emotions when they encounter certain stress in their life, right? And of course, this is the hardest one. I left this last because this is the hardest. I mean, even I don't understand this Gen Z language with all the, I think one that I always see is, suspicious. Oh, sus. Yeah, that's the easiest just because the first 3 letters is the same. The other generation, Gen Z languages or lingo is quite tough, but adapting to it does allow them to feel more connected and accepted, and that you want to be part of that conversation. So you do see a lot of parents now trying to learn this lingo, and they're sharing it a lot on social media, on YouTube, on TikTok, and that's where we can also learn. So that's the bond that is being created among parents and their children. So communication is definitely key there. Now, when we look at the child, how do we convey, or how do the younger generation convey that they respect their parents, that they respect their superiors? Yes, it's about understanding that they do have their wisdom. Trust me, that's why even myself, mentors are key, because mentors are your ticket to a lot of things or shortcuts in life. Where you listen to them, you try to absorb their experience, and that's what will allow you to make better decisions, right? Then it's about sharing your world. Explain your interests, the reasons behind your choices, to give them an insight of your world, just like the languages, just like the new activities, just like something that you find interesting. This communication bridges that barrier so that when you do have that struggle, you're able to openly share. A lot what we see on the app are family disputes. So the child doesn't feel comfortable enough to share with their parent or to seek adult support. And the reason why is because of this. They didn't have these kind of initiatives. Another one, initiate family activities, or patients have knowing that if they share, there is that patience and understanding. Right? So if you fall under the maybe millennial, Gen Z, Gen Alphas, This is how you build that connection with your superiors, with your seniors, with your parents. It's about bridging that gap so that you can start building a support system. I would say that having this kind of support system with one another is key, because it's only with building that community and only with building that group of circle that you know you can go to when you're struggling is when you feel really strong. We see a lot of people on the app who come on board and we're asking them, okay, who can you reach out to for support? Yes, you always have Plus Vibes app. You can always chat with us, but who else? And they say no one. And that's the saddest part, when they say no one. So that's where we try to initiate, okay, you need to talk to someone. You need to speak to someone. And then it's about being aware, right? Supporting your loved ones with mental health conditions. How can we support? What we do see, the symptoms that we can see is, yes, they self-isolate. There's change in sleeping or eating patterns. They're easily irritated or angry. They feel hopeless. They unexpectedly give away personal items, like they don't have that sense of belonging anymore. They don't feel as much. So they're just numb to happiness or joy, or numb to not even smile. I know that because I used to feel like that. So I know that that is something that, you know, even to smile, it would hurt your face. And then there's unhealthy coping mechanisms such as not sleeping enough or sleeping too much, or not eating enough or eating too much. And of course, there's difficulty in concentrating. All of these are the preliminary symptoms that you can do to identify, okay, someone's changed or they've become so different, right? And how you can support is, although you might feel like you're disturbing them, but just regular check-ins. Just saying, hi, I hope you're well, or encouraging them, hey, we're having a badminton, even though they might not feel like it then and there. But when they constantly know that you'll invite them, maybe one day they might have that energy, but at least you don't leave them completely alone. Because being alone goes back to that 4 stages of depression, which is the negative thinking. And trust me, it's something that we cannot control. Once we have too much cortisol levels, stress levels, we will automatically start triggering all these negative thoughts. And then it's about being aware. There are so many resources available to understand more about mental health, why people face anxiety, why people face depression. And then, yes, if they are on medication, I do know that most of our users are on medication. It is to monitor that, because this medication, I know there's a stigma between this, but once your body is chemically imbalanced, maybe because of the trauma, because of the high stress cortisol levels, it does cause your body to become imbalanced. We spoke to a psychiatrist, I think last month, and they were sharing how once it reaches that stage of depression, your body won't operate at its optimal level. And that's why the medication is there to support. It's not there so that you would continuously rely on it, but it's there so that it would regulate your emotions better. And then I'll share with you Plus Vibes app, and I'll also share with you other resources available later on. Crisis plan is important. Let's say you do identify someone is always having that suicidal tendencies, and they're always saying things to self-harm themselves. Create a plan. Do not ignore it, because once it comes out of their mouth and they're saying it, it's most likely they're thinking about it. So you need to be proactive to support them. Sometimes we're just like, oh no, they're not going to do it. You know, they're just saying it. They just want attention. Well, yes, they do want attention. They want your attention to help and care for them. So try not to see it as something so lightly. And of course, don't pressure or badger or annoy them in the sense that, okay, are you okay? Let's go here. Let's go that. Let's do this. Because they will feel exhausted. And once they feel that exhaustion, they would just completely shut out. And I'm sharing with you all from the experience of myself and our members on Plus Vibes app, how we've seen this how their trends, the changes, and what has helped them and what they like, but no one was able to support them in such a way. Now, about the resources. Yes, there is, mental health services, physical, you can go to the clinics. There are government hospitals that provide it. There are private clinics. I would say it ranges around 250 ringgit an hour. Yes, it is slightly expensive, but there are alternatives as well. So the issue among some, why when we ask someone who we see is going through a mental health struggle or challenge, and we want to initiate them to reach out for help, why they wouldn't are some of these reasons. Number one, maybe the waiting time is very long. I know for government, it might take around maybe 1 month to 2 months. I had one of my close friends wait 2 months, I think, and they finally got the appointment, but it was just a 1-hour session. And then, it wasn't able to really support them that much. And then they would have to wait for another 2 months because there is that long waiting time because of the limited availability, limited counselors, perhaps even in some cases, if you're going on platforms which are non-professional, there is inconsistent quality. During my time, I'm just sharing with you the different resources. I did try 7 Cups. It's a volunteer, non-professional support platform where you can just speak to anyone in the world. But the consistency-wise, the advice-wise, I was thinking, okay, maybe it's just for someone who they want to talk to, but not suited towards what I needed. There is that expensive concern, language barriers, and privacy concern. You don't share with your loved ones because you're afraid that they're thinking, oh, is there something wrong with me? They're going to know my problems. What do I do? They're going to remind me of it even after I get better. So these are some of the concerns that prevent people from reaching out for support. Now, last but not least, before we go into our interactive sessions, which I'm sure you all have a list of questions that you want to ask, but this is a little bit about Plus Vibes. I shared with you my journey, why, the journey of how we developed it in 2020, and how we got support from. Now we have over 300 vibers and specialists on the app who believe in the mission of making it affordable and accessible. Now you're going to say, affordable in what sense? Affordable where you see this chat therapy session, there are 10 free sessions, 45-minute sessions every single month. There are 10 where you can just simply chat and you get connected on demand within 2 minutes. You get connected to our vibers, you can chat. And how we take care of privacy is that we completely delete and don't back up any of your chats. We've conducted 19,000 over therapy sessions. So yes, definitely, we don't want to save all the messages. And another thing, how we're private and confidential is you don't have to reveal your name, your IC, your phone number. All you need is an email address. If you are uncomfortable using your personal email address, you can create a new email address. But we do require you to verify so that we know that you're not a bot. But yes, so here's another one where you can book specialists. So you can swipe and choose a specialist that you like. There's a video there as well. There's different languages. There's different fees as well. It's as low as 50 ringgit per hour. And that is the best that we can do to compensate the specialists and as well to make it so affordable. And from there, there's the booking platform. So you can straight away book with the counselors and specialists directly on the app. There are coaches, career coaches, nutritionists, mental professionals, psychiatrists, a wide range, all on the app. Not only that, there's the mood tracker, sleep tracker, there's motivational relaxation activities. We send notifications, I think in the morning and at night, just general knowledge, because it's all about awareness, right? Sometimes we don't know that we want to learn about something. We want to learn about insomnia, for example. We'll trigger that article for you to read. Or maybe at night, you are having a tough day and you're thinking, I really need to just listen to some peaceful soundtracks, and you're searching on YouTube, ding, Plus Vibes will probably send you one for you to relax. I love that's my self-care habit, is to listen to these peaceful soundtracks like nature, birds, piano at night, because it really does allow you to unwind and release that stress after a long day. A little bit more, you can see here the video. These are some of the content in terms of the motivational articles. Okay. And then these are the relaxation activities. So you can see the peaceful soundtracks, calming voiceovers, anxiety relief techniques. This one is the Wheel of Life. This will refresh every single month. So basically you can track on a month-to-month basis, and maybe over a span of 6 months, you can see how your life has been going and what is really affecting your happiness. And then there's the emotional wellness tracker, so you can select your mood. This one's interesting because sometimes we often think that we're having such a bad month and everything is going terrible. But if we really track, there were some of those good days. So it's to acknowledge that, yes, some days are tough, but there were good days as well. And then there's pocket-sized lessons and modules. So sleep, about stress, about anxiety. There's a lot here where you can learn about it and then do the assessments and modules on the app. And last but not least, this is the chat one. So I was talking about the chat one. So when you directly get connected, you can straight away chat in the app. Yeah, so that's about it. And then last but not least, there's also all these other helplines. Maybe you can take a picture of this. There's all the helplines. You can go to the website, you can call them. I know Befriended is quite common. And it's just good to have these phone numbers in your phone just in case you need it. Okay? And to conclude, before we start our session with questions, is the empathy part. And I hope you'll ask questions about this, because this is the toughest part, that the root cause of all mental health issues might be about empathy. How do you be empathetic to yourself when we actually don't acknowledge how we feel, our emotions, what we're struggling with? How do we become, self-compassion? How do we practice self-compassion for ourselves? How do we set realistic expectations? How do we practice the third person self-talk? I do this a lot, talking in the mirror and then really building my own confidence and being comfortable in my own skin and how I speak. And it's about being empathetic to others as well. Observing the nonverbal cues, asking open-ended questions, mirroring their emotions, sharing your experience. So when we think about mental health, you think about, okay, how do you empathize yourself and all the daily stress that you go through? How do you really build that kind of strength to understand and become self-aware? And it's also to others. How do you communicate empathetically? How do you see things from a different point of view? How do you observe someone who is suicidal or who is struggling? What can you do to support them? So the last one. So I hope you remember what CARE meant. But yes, E is the last one, which is empathy. And with that, that's the mission of Plus Vibes. We wanted to really support and empower one another, and talking about your problems should truly be easy. It shouldn't be so hard. Okay? So I hope that was insightful. Let's now open the floor to our panel session. Well, that panel session with the audience.
Thank you so much, Maddie. That was so good. I think you gave us a lot of information and insights as well to help us. And there is one question in the chat, and I think there are some other questions that have come in from Facebook as well. So there's a question from Tiru on what are some of your recommended ways or tips to get the Gen Z to open up and share truthfully to their parents?
That's a very good question. Now, with the Gen Z, what happens is, I'll share with you how they come on the app and what they rant about. They straight away come on the app, they feel so distressed and they're thinking, oh, my parents don't understand me. I'm trying to share this. I'm going through this and they don't even hear me out. So the first thing is to create that kind of safe space with your parents. Now, yes, I would assume from their feedback, they would say, my parents just don't listen. They straight away automatically judge. Let's give an example of academic stress. Okay, or maybe workplace might be better. The Gen Zs entering the workplace, it's their first job, they got their first stress. When they share it with their parents, typically what the parents will say is, oh, I also had that same problem too. Oh, it's okay. You just have to listen to your manager, your superior, just toughen up. And then the Gen Z would go to their room and feel not supported, not cared for. And they're thinking, wait a minute, I'm really struggling at the workplace. I don't know how to manage this. The key here is to approach it in a different way. Coming into the situation and straight away saying, oh, my manager is like this, then, they're not considering this, I'm feeling so stressed, might open up a dispute between, oh, it might be your fault, maybe you're not communicating right, if you have parents like that. So another way to approach it is by asking a question. Okay, so the Gen Z can come in to their parents or to their superior and be like, how would you approach this kind of situation if you were in this kind of situation where, your managers were doing this, you had tight deadlines, how would you approach? Now, what happens is, instead of coming in and straight away boiling down into the problem, it opens the door for your parents or for your anyone, to your superior, someone older, to come in and say, oh, how I would do that is this. And then you share, oh, but actually what I'm going through is this. So it really depends on that communication level, how you approach the communication, how perhaps parents can initiate Gen Zs to share the same concept. How's the workplace? Instead of, coming off a little bit more offensive, saying maybe something that is triggering, like, oh, why are you not doing your work on time? Oh, how many deadlines do you have? Or maybe perhaps even, why are you working so late? You didn't finish your work during the office hour. What were you doing? Triggering questions, right? So it really depends how we communicate. Yes, I would say certain level of communication would trigger different responses, but asking how are you doing? How would you approach the situation? What kind of task are you working on? What are you struggling with? This opens doors to a little bit more calmer conversations rather than straight away attacking the problem. I often feel that maybe because of the whole, you're afraid to share your weaknesses. So it's another social pressure issue. You're afraid to share your weaknesses. So you often shy away from sharing your weaknesses and getting that kind of support. So it goes back to the communication, I guess.
Yep, that's so true, because I have two children, aged 22 and 26. They're the Gen Zs, and they just come barging in, with their emotions and their thoughts and so on. And I find that it's very helpful, as you said, to actually listen to them first, to step back and to hold back our comments and judgment and to just really listen to them. Yeah. Okay. I believe we have a question from Krishan. Krishan, would you like to unmute yourself and ask the question or type it in the chat?
Hi, Sandra. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I apologize if it's a bit noisy. I'm using my backup laptop, and for a little bit of privacy, I stepped out into the porch area and I'm using my earphones. Hi, Mariha. Thank you for sharing your personal experience. There were bits and pieces I didn't quite get to hear because this wonderful laptop just disconnects itself from the Wi-Fi, and then I had to play a catch-up game with it. So anyway, I don't think I missed much. So it's great that you created Trust Vibes, a community that's supportive, and I think this was based on your own personal experience in the various challenges you faced during the pandemic. So from what you shared with this community, right, it's an app. Is it on 2 or 3 questions? First of all, is it only available as an app, or is there a desktop version which can be downloaded onto a computer? Second of all, you mentioned there that it's primarily chat. Is there an option also for face-to-face sessions? And But I forget. I'm not sure what. I forget what's the third question. But it's great that the third is basically a comment, not a question. It's great that you said for 1 month there's 10 free
Yeah.
chat sessions for 45 minutes, and you said in terms of the cost for a session, it is a nominal amount of 50 ringgit, and that's
Yes.
for 1 hour. Am I right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so that's basically what I can think of offhand based on what I heard and what I've digested.
Nice. Okay. So the first one, yes, there is, oh, well, it's only mobile app. So there is no desktop version yet. I would say it's purely on iOS and Android. So it is a mobile application. The second part to it, there is chat. So the chatting part is the on-demand part. The second part is the booking a specialist, which is a virtual Google Meet session. And then the third part is, yes, physical can. Some of our specialists are based in IMU Healthcare, so the physical sessions can be conducted there. We are working on partnering with more clinics to have those physical sessions. But as of now, we feel that most of our members would like the virtual because they can turn off their camera at first and then they can start sharing. And once they feel comfortable, then they start, okay, the next session, they want to turn on their camera and then they start feeling more comfortable. Because I guess when talking to a specialist, there's always that stigma about, am I going to be judged? What if what I'm sharing is inappropriate or something that is, really traumatic or abusive to them? So that's where we allow them to have that first stepping stone. If you're not comfortable, okay, let's do chat. Maybe if a little bit more comfortable, you can go on the virtual Google Meet session, turn off your camera. Slightly more comfortable, turn on your camera. If you're even more comfortable, or if we do feel that you need that physical face-to-face assessments, engagement, then yes, there's IMU Healthcare. But I hope that we can expand that to other clinics as well.
Okay, great. Now, there's another question from Dorothy, who says that when seeking professional help, there are different types of mental health professionals. So when do you actually seek help of a psychiatrist versus a psychologist versus a counselor?
Okay, so the difference, a counselor doesn't diagnose you. So a counselor is someone you talk to. So you can share your problems, they will give you advice. Yes, there is a certification for that, which is Lembaga Counseling Malaysia, LKM. So they're all certified as well as counselors. Once they move on to being clinical psychologists and psychiatrists, that's when they require a different certification. It's MSCP. So clinical psychologists and psychiatrists can diagnose you with mental health concerns, conditions, illnesses, and that's where they can conduct the assessments for you, whether it's as extreme as schizophrenia, whether it's bipolar, or whether it is going through depression, or whether it's PTSD. Both can do that, but only psychiatrists can prescribe you medication. So that's the difference. So one counselor is for you to talk to. The second part is clinical psychologist is for you to get diagnosed, and also psychiatrist, but psychiatrist is the one who prescribes the medication. When do you know where to seek help? I would say if you went through a trauma, if you would rate your mental health extremely severe and you would personally say that person is either depressed, going through hyperventilation, really you can see it affecting their body, might go to a clinical psychologist or psychiatrist straight away because it already physically affects your body. If you do not have maybe hyperventilation yet, or you don't have any panic attacks, anxiety attacks, start off with counselor. Yes, I would say counselors are much more cheaper as well. It becomes slightly more expensive as you do the assessments and as you get the medication. So if you feel you need to talk to someone to get that support and comfort and to have a support system, start off with counselor, because they're more than able to equip you with the right advice and right support.
Right. And adding on to that question as well, if a parent and a child require some sort of mediation, can they also come onto Plus Vibes? And how do they go about that?
We do have that. So, well, we would recommend them to go through the virtual Google Meet session. So there is couple, there is marriage therapy, there's parent and child, where they can go on the virtual Google Meet session, both of them, and that's where they can have the session virtually as well. So it's easier rather than having to bring the child, and then going to a mental health clinic and the child's like, what is going on here? Is there something wrong with me? Because that's definitely not what we want to do. We want them to see it as a session of let's understand one another. So the approach is very important.
Right. And employee and boss as well?
Yeah, Well, if they're willing, but I'm not sure. I think the employee would prefer a solo session.
Probably that, yes. Okay, another question from Dorothy. In your opinion, why do some people, after going through some professional help, still take a drastic decision in their life?
I do feel it's because perhaps they went through, okay, I'll give you my example. It's just easier to share from my experience. I did go through professional help. I would say it did support me. But what happened was because I was already chemically imbalanced from the painkillers because I couldn't move my arms, right? So there's painkillers, there was all the depression medication. What happened was I did think of, what is going on? How am I going to get over this? It goes towards that whole victim mindset. Yes, if you go through therapy, they do give you that support, they do give you that medication, but at the same time, if you are not connected to anyone on this earth, if you do not have relationship with your family or maybe your spouse or maybe children or even nephews, then you still feel alone. So you still feel like, okay, the only person who is caring for me is this mental health professional. And then you start thinking, oh, maybe that it's because I'm paying them to care for me. You see, so I feel that's the cycle that they go about in thinking. So it's always about, okay, yes, you go through therapy, but in therapy, they will always ask you to build your social circle, to be connected back to your family, to your friends, to activities, to go back to doing what you love doing. And if they don't remember to do that, or if they don't embark on that initiative to remember to do what they love doing, that's where I feel that there's still that disconnect between, wanting to continue.
What happens if the parents feel that the social circle is bad influence, that they're the wrong company, and they can see their teenage child or their youth actually, embarking on wrong social activities as well, and it makes them happy. So what do they do then?
So I think, there's this case where it was an extreme case where we already know that the circle are, the circle with substance abuse. They are as young as 14 years old, going out at 3 a.m. And the parents are coming on board the app and saying, I don't know where my son is. He's 14 years old. He's outside at 3 a.m. And then he comes back with the wrong circle, suddenly having an accident because he was on a cycle or motorbike. He has an accident. And then when the parent comes on and says, what do I do about this? So it goes back to, how can you engage yourself with your son to make them feel like you actually care with them, rather than taking the approach of, oh, I'm the mother, I have to do this, you have to listen to me. It's more of an authoritative approach. That causes what we feel is it distances the child. So whenever they have a problem, they don't come back and reach out for support. They don't trust enough that you care for them. So we do feel that it goes back to that communication whereby it starts from scratch. Build that relationship first, and then only you can have a say on who their friends are, right? Once you build that relationship, and maybe you can then start sharing with them, oh yeah, I had a friend like that. But maybe perhaps, if you want this kind of life, this is the path that you embark with. It's about sharing different experiences, right? Or maybe this path, I like sharing my experience about how my journey was very different throughout the past 10 years. I started off with a food truck. It was so hard. It was so tough. The circle of friends that I was with perhaps weren't helping me grow. But as you shift, that's when you see, oh, you can grow so much, right? So it's sharing with them that kind of experience, but it all goes back down to whether they feel like you care for them.
Thank you. Elle has a question on how much does one need to pay to subscribe to Plus Vibes?
Oh, it's a free app. It's a free app where you can use all the features that I mentioned earlier, the motivational content, the mood tracker, and all that is all free. You only start paying if you're booking a virtual session. Even the chatbot is free. So there's 10 free sessions every single month. But if you want to book the virtual Google Meet sessions, yes, that one starts from 50 ringgit an hour.
Right. And I believe that sometimes people can also earn a voucher as well.
Yes,
So
yes,
that
yes,
they
yes.
actually get, yes.
Yes, so we do launch those vouchers as well. We also get a lot of support from corporate bodies who want to sponsor for mental health initiatives. So that's where we launch different types of vouchers. And we do partnerships. Last time we did a partnership with Zeus Coffee. So if you purchase a therapy session, then you get, coffee, or you get ice cream. You get a lot of these different self-care gifts. So that's how we kind of, reward people who take care of their mental health.
Right. So if we have employers in the audience here as well, they could also contact your company and actually sign up for a corporate program for their employees as well.
Yep. So it's based on per employee, whether you want to subscribe per employee per month and allow them certain access and tokens. It would include the virtual therapy sessions, and then it will also include the data report. Now, this data report is anonymous, but we do share what is the overview of the concern. For example, is it financial? Is it childcare? Is it, for example, family? Or is it workplace? So that during your training sessions or during events, then you can curate it to what are the problems the employees are actually facing.
Right. Wonderful. Great. So I think if we that there's tons of questions that we will probably have, and we'll probably keep you all here for the next half an hour. But are there any parting words that you'd like to share with the audience, Madiha?
Thank you so much, Sandra, for this session. I hope it was informative. I think for everyone out there, mental health is so important. And sometimes we often overlook it, whether it's our children, whether it's our colleague, whether it's even our manager. Everyone goes through stress. That's inevitable, but it's more of how we manage that stress, what kind of support system we have, and what do we do to take care of ourselves. So just believe that, prevent it by doing really self-care activities, talking to someone about it, and really just don't close one eye to someone who is struggling. So yeah, that's about it.
Great, wonderful. So before we end the session, and before I announce what's coming up in the next session, because we have a very exciting next session, could we please request everyone to just put your cameras on so that we could take a group photo, please? So don't be shy. Can we have everyone have your cameras on just for a quick second? It's lovely to see all of you. And thank you so much for joining us here today.
Yay, we all have a picture together.
Yes.
Hey, everyone.
Nina, say when?
Yeah, has everyone agreed to put on their cameras?
I think some
Ready?
have run away.
Give me your best smiles. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Just opening up the cameras. And second part.
Second screen, yes.
Keep that smile.
I'm gonna copy Daryl.
Yeah. And we're done. Over to you,
All
Sandra.
right. Thank you so much. Okay. So, just get that. Okay. So our next session is going to be, our next VIP will be on the 22nd of August at 8 p.m. And we have a prominent speaker, Helen Selvanathan, who has just won some awards, some Global Digital Women Award. And she's now specializing in diversity and inclusion. So she's going to come on to talk about The Body Never Lies, a very, very interesting topic about body language and how that contributes or hampers DEI as well. So please do join us. You can actually scan the QR code to register for the next session. Yeah. So you can go ahead and do that. And for those of you who would like to receive an e-certificate of attendance for today's session, please do scan this QR code, fill in the Google form and submit it to us. And we will have the e-certificate for your attendance for this session today to be sent to you, your email within 48 hours. Yeah. But if you don't receive, if you scan and you fill in the form and you don't receive the form, please do check your inbox and spam, because sometimes it does go into that as well. Okay. So with that, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And I hope that you found this session useful. I certainly did. Thank you once again, Mariha. Thank you so much. And thank you to my 3E team and for all of you for joining us today. Take care. Have a lovely night, whatever's left of that, and hope to see you on